Hey, what's up, everybody? Izzy here, getting ready to jump into episode number 16 of another effing podcast, but I must take care of the people that take care of me, and that is the glorious sponsor of the show. That would be Rockstar Leatherworks. RockstarLeatherworks.com, leather bands and watches. Very cool stuff. I wore my watch that I got from them on the Monsters of Rock Cruise, the Moody Blues Cruise, and Cruise to the Edge, and got lots of major compliments, everybody wondering where it came from, and I told them, rockstarleatherworks.com. Check out their stuff. You're going to buy one, and you go, oh my God, I got this so fast. I'm so happy with it. I have to get another one. It's killer. You're going to love their stuff. I highly suggest them. If I didn't like the material, if I didn't like the product, I wouldn't talk about it on the show. But I do. RockstarLeatherworks.com. Check them out right now. Another way to support the show, of course, is to support me. It's easy. Go on PayPal. Send me money. Izzy.presley@gmail.com is the PayPal email. That's Izzy.presley@gmail.com. You don't have to send a lot. You don't have to send any, but you can. You want to send $1, $5, $10, $100, whatever you want to send. That is okay. If you just want to listen, that's supporting the show too, and I am happy with that. And with that said, let us jump into another effing podcast.
You kids with your loud music and your Dan Fogelberg, your Zima, hula hoops, and Pac-Man video games, don't you see? People today have attention spans that can only be measured in nanoseconds.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Izzy Presley here, jumping into another effing podcast, another fucking podcast, however you want to say it. Episode number 16. It is good to be back. It is good to be cankle-free after those 3 amazing cruises I just did. Hosting the karaoke with my good friend Brian Ott, and hosting a Kiss Jam on the Monsters Cruise. That was a blast. Did some Q&As on the Cruise to the Edge. Got to intro a few bands. Oh, on the Monsters Cruise, I got to intro Firehouse. I got to intro Doro. That was pretty badass. Then on the Cruise to the Edge, I got to intro Queensryche twice, and one of them, Pamela Moore, came up with them. If you don't know who Pamela Moore is, she is Sister Mary on the Operation Mindcrime record. And she was on the cruise with her own band, and, well, Queensryche happened to be there. Pamela Moore happened to be there. Why not bring her up? It was great. It was amazing. I was watching that show with the guys from Cheap Thrill. It'd be Jeff LaBar and Troy Patrick Farrell, the man with the best hair on the boat, all 3 cruises. It smelled glorious. That sounded gay. Nice guy, and their singer Brandon. And I remember seeing LaBar's face when she came out. I was like, oh my God, there she is. It was awesome. So yeah, we had a great time. We'll get into the cruises here in a minute. Benny's going to join me for the first time in a few months. Of course, he was out on the road for a while with Richie Ramone, and then I was gone for a couple weeks, so I had a couple guests in between there. So Benny's making his return here. I'm going to play a little track for you later from a Minnesota artist by the name of Jody Hanks. He was on Star Search way back in the day. I can't remember the name of the band, though. I think they lost, or did they win? I can't remember, but you'll enjoy that. And you'll have a chance to win that record, too, because he sent me 2 copies of it. So I'm going to give one away. You'll have a chance to win that if you like it. And yeah, Benny's going to come on. We're going to talk about the tour with Richie Ramone. What's in the future for the Richie Ramone band? So they got some more touring coming up. Lots of cool stuff coming up for them. And of course, it happened while I was gone. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction of the Masked Marauders. That would be Kiss. We're going to get into that because it went off without a hitch. Of course, they did not play. And I knew they wouldn't after everything that came out. it would just be too much wrestling if they would have played. All the hype, they're not going to play. Oh my God, they're playing. Oh my God. Too predictable. But they didn't, which is unfortunate. And I got a couple news stories, of course, that we're going to go over. A couple things that happened while I was on the boat. One about this lady and her husband who was wanted, or her boyfriend or whatever, and her mother whipping their child excessively because he wanted to be a gangster. They were disciplining him. They went a tinge overboard. But I think I'm going to have an opinion on that some of you may get pissed off, some of you may agree. We're going to get into that later. But let's talk about the cruises, man. The Monsters of Rock cruise. I'm going to run down the list. This is everybody that was there. Tesla, Cinderella, Kicks, Winger, Y&T, Firehouse, Slaughter, The Winery Dogs, Great White, Loudness, Dio Disciples, Red Dragon Cartel, Autograph, Doro Pesh, Dangerous Toys, Quiet Riot, London Choir Boys, sorry. I belched up a little Coke there. Coca-Cola, not the powdery stuff. LA Guns, Carl Palmer, Vixen, Faster Pussycat, Femme Fatale, Tough, Taiketo, Charm City Devils, Killer Dwarves, Mike Tramp, John Corabi, Ted Poley, Ron Keel, Joel Hoekstra. Joel is in Night Ranger, and he's also in the Broadway production of Rock of Ages. Amazing, amazing guitar player. And he's also in Trans-Siberian Orchestra, so yeah, he can play just a little bit. Richie Kotzen, of course, from the Winery Dogs, but he was doing solo stuff also. Moby Dix, the Iron Maidens, Heavy Mellow, Cheap Thrill, I already talked about them. AJ's Bravehearts, DJ Will, of course, and hosted by the one and only Eddie Trunk. And Cheap Thrill, let me tell you about these guys. I'm going to have Lewis from Cheap Thrill on in a couple weeks because he just happens to live right down the street. We found that out over drinks. Because God forbid there was drinking going on those cruises. They're a flamenco band. 2 guitar players and 1 percussion guy. And he just kind of sits on a box and pounds on the box. Giggity. But they do heavy metal songs flamenco style. No vocals, but oh my God. Check these guys out. It's absolutely amazing. We'll have Lewis on. He's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. Ended up drinking with him and Jeff LeBar at the airport at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Oh my God. It was fun. It was hilarious. LeBar, when he gets a couple in him, is just absolutely hilarious. And of course, Jeff LeBar's from Cinderella and also Cheap Thrill. But yeah, the Monsters Cruise. We're going to start off with the Monsters Cruise because there was a lot more stuff happening for me personally on that one. And the Kiss Jam that I got to host, that was a lot of fun. I had Jeremy and Topher from John Corabi's band came up. We did a bunch of songs. And we wanted to have Chad from Faster Pussycat playing with us too, but they ended up playing at the same time as the Kiss Jam was going on, so Chad couldn't do it. You know, Chad was sad because he really wanted to do it. He's like, well, change the time of it. I want to do it. Like, sorry, buddy, it's out of my control. You know, I don't set the schedule. You know, we had a good crowd until everything else started happening while we were playing, but that doesn't matter because we had a great crowd. And everybody had fun. So we just shit, we need a drummer. This guy comes up and I know those songs. All right, get back there. Turned out everybody was talking about how great this guy was. And it was like spreading around the boat how this guy just jumped in and killed it. We opened it up with Rip It Out and Shock Me. Because Jeremy is also in a Kiss tribute band, so he knows all of this stuff. And then the jamming started, and we did Strutter and I Stole Your Love. And I Stole Your Love, what's the kid's name? Is it Justin? Jacob from Lynham. He's been on the cruises every year. He came up and sang I Stole Your Love. That was pretty cool. it was just madness. It was fun. It was like, hey, do you know this? Come on up. Who wants to play this? Come on up. And that's really the fun way to do a jam. I wanted to get it more planned out than it actually was, but it was just, I wanted to be, it was like in the spur of the moment. I wanted to be more spur of the moment. It was fun. You should have seen the stage that we were on. It was big enough for about a grand piano and a guy playing acoustic guitar. And we had a full drum kit, 2 Marshall JCM 800 half stacks, and a bass rig up there, and 2 mics. And basically, the only thing we had mic'd was the mics. That was the only thing coming through the PA because everything else was just so loud. He didn't need it, especially in that small of a room. And it really makes me want a JCM 800 now. I get it. Now that I finally played through one at like gig volume, nothing in between the guitar and the amp. Oh, it was glorious. It was fun. Kiss Jam was an absolute blast. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Ron Keel came up, and then he wasn't able to do the song, so he left. And he apologized to me for it. It was just little miscommunication over what happened. It's unfortunate, but oh well. Hey, shit happens. It's rock and roll, baby. Anthony Garcia, one of the cruisers, he was so jazzed about it. He wanted to play bass on Deuce, so I saved that for him. He showed up in full jean makeup and a homemade MORC, Monsters of Rock Cruise t-shirt in the Kiss letters, and like it was kick-ass, and he killed it. It was awesome. And that's like, you know what? That's what it's all about. You know, people that are that excited and that happy, you know, to be able to get up on stage and play with, even if it's just me, you know, or anybody that goes up there. And then, you know, we had a couple artists come up there too. You know, I was talking, you know, Jeremy and Topher. It was funny because during Detroit Rock City, Courtney from the Iron Maidens and Femme Fatale, she commented on something. She's like, I know all these songs. I want to do it. I'm like, kick ass. Absolutely. You're in. I mean, the more artists, the better, because, you know, give everybody an opportunity to play with, you know, artists that are on the ship. And she, how do you say, had a little bit too much to drink, I guess. And she's an amazing, preface this, she is an amazing guitar player. She's in an Iron Maiden tribute band, so you know she's good. Well, she couldn't remember Detroit Rock City, so I had to take over for her. That's right. She tapped out. This man took over. Oh, yay me. But that's not the coolest thing that happened on the cruise. Bar none. The coolest thing that happened on the cruise was the coolest thing that I've seen in all 3 years. And it happened during the Gong Show karaoke that me and Brian Ott were hosting. We ended up doing 2 Gong Show contests. And the first one was our judges were Chips Enough, Michael Grant from Endeverafter and LA Guns, and Ace from Faster Pussycat. And Gong Show rules were this: you could get gonged for any reason. If you sucked, if we don't like the song, if the crowd's not into it, if it's just not right, or maybe you just didn't like your t-shirt. I gonged a girl because she did Don't Stop Believin'. Didn't even have a chance to sing. Just, it started and I gonged her. That's Gong Song of the Night, sorry. So I apologized to her. She laughed it off. She got it. It was a joke. But that's cool. And the girl that ended up winning the whole thing, she didn't win the first night. Aki, a guy from Tokyo, won the first night. He was good. And then the second Gong Show, where the winner was going to get so the winner from the first night, Aki, would take on the winner from the second night that night too in the grand finals, and the winner got to go up with Cheap Thrill during the All-Star Jam on the pool stage. And that actually ended up not happening because Great White started late and the Cheap Thrill Jam was like right after that. So they weren't able to actually get up there and do it, which is unfortunate, but she understood which is cool too. I mean, they felt, Jeff LeBar's like, dude, I'm so sorry. It's not my fault. It's just, no, it's all good, man. It's happened. Shit happens. It's rock and roll. So the second night that we did Gong Show, the judges were CJ Snare from Firehouse, Alan, the bass player from Firehouse. Now keep in mind, Alan does the high harmonies for CJ. That CJ's voice is so high it makes my balls hurt. And Alan does the high harmonies above him. And who was the other one? Oh, yeah, Troy. Troy from Cheap Thrill. He also used to play with White Lion, Mike Tramp's White Lion. Super cool guy. So Erica came back the second night and put her song in. Didn't know who the judges were going to be. Because I had thought it was going to be John Karabi and Pat from XYZ, who just happened to be on the boat partying and hanging out. Well, hanging out because he doesn't really party. He doesn't really drink anymore. And Troy. Well, Karabi was walking around with a bottle of tequila. A water bottle with tequila in it. So by the time that came around, he forgot. And he apologized. He's like, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. And CJ said he would do it the other day, and then it's like, I didn't want to bug him or whatever. So him and Alan showed up. So it was Alan and CJ from Firehouse and Troy, and she saw them. She's like, oh, shit. But she didn't change her song. She thought about it, but she didn't. She held her ground. She's like, fuck it, I'm doing this song. I put the song in, I'm going to do it. I know Alan says, like, when it started, he's like, oh, shit, she's just trying to, he almost gonged her right away. And I'm glad he didn't. Because he almost gonged her because, she's trying to win points by doing our song. When actually she was manning up and doing it because she already put it in. Well, she killed it. She killed it. She was doing so well that Alan jumped up and started doing the high harmonies for her. And then, to top it off, CJ went up and started singing backups too. Keep in mind, all she wanted to do on this cruise was meet CJ. Now he's singing backups for her on his song along with the bass player from Firehouse also. How badass is that? That is just like the coolest freaking thing ever. I get chills talking about it. And I'm glad that we were part of it. So cool. Gong Show was a blast. She ended up winning it all. And actually, Leisha from Minnesota also. Leisha Gust. She was one of the finalists too, and she was doing Rock You Like a Hurricane, and CJ went up and sang backups for her too, so that was pretty cool. Thanks, CJ, for that. I mean, that's pretty badass. Yeah, obviously, you didn't have to judge. You didn't have to jump up there and sing backups, and you did. You partied, you had fun, and that's really, really what it was all about. Winery Dogs were absolutely amazing, as one would know if you're familiar with the Winery Dogs. If you're not familiar with the Winery Dogs, you should be. You should go buy the record right now. As you're listening to this, go to iTunes, go, ooh, I want the Winery Dogs, and download the record, and you'll be blown away. It's Richie Kotzen. And if you're not familiar with Richie, you should be, because he is one of the best guitar players on the planet. He's been a solo guy pretty much his whole career. He had a flash and Poison when CC left. He was on the not the Flesh and Blood, but the one was Stand What You Believe, or whatever the hell that song is. Stand for What You Believe. That record. Native Tongue. That was the record that Richie was on. Bass player is Billy Sheenan. Yes. That Billy Sheenan. David Lee Roth. Mr. Big. Dude's a monster. Amazing, amazing bass player. So you got two all-stars right there. Oh, yeah, but neither of them use picks either. Richie's a lead guitar player. He does not use a pick. And he can shred with no pick. I can barely play Ace Frehley solos with a pick. Just to put that in perspective. Oh, and their drummer, Mike Portnoy. Dream Theater. And he did a little stint with Avenged Sevenfold, and now he's Winery Dogs, and it's just sick. It really is. I was watching them from behind the stage, and I was watching with a couple drummers from the other bands on the cruise, and they were literally getting mad watching Portnoy play because he was so good. One of them just looked at me and was like, "This is dumb. This is stupid. This is, I mean, joking. Keep in mind, he's joking. He's obviously joking. This is just stupid." It's like, yeah, like me watching Kotzen play. It's like, Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? Really? That's really the vibe that it was. It was just funny watching pro players watch somebody and with their jaw on the ground saying, "This is dumb. This is stupid." Oh, now he's just showing off. Really? Come on. Oh, it was so great. It was so great. And then, it was just fun to reconnect with everybody, too. This is the third year that I've done the Monsters Cruise. Pardon me. First 2 years I was with Rockin' 101 and, representing the station on there, and I was actually an artist on there, and that it meant a lot. So thank you very much to Larry and everybody that helped put on that cruise. It was time of my life on all three of them. Absolutely. And who else do we see? Who else did I see that really blew me away? I didn't get to see Red Dragon Cartel. I was either working or something else was going on that I didn't get a chance to see him. But God, it was just an absolute blast. So cool. Then we had got off the boat, got right back on for the Moody Blues Cruise. Now, okay, I'm going to put this in perspective for all three cruises. This is how different the three crowds were. The Monsters Cruise, metal horns. The Moody Blues Cruise, peace sign. And Cruise to the Edge, the Spock. Live long and prosper. The V, whatever. Very different crowds. I'm going to just put this in perspective. Now, sold out, that would be 3,700 people per cruise, which Monsters was. I don't think the Moody's and Cruise to the Edge were. But when I was checking in for the Cruise to the Edge, the gal was talking to the cop that I was yelling at because I hadn't seen Horatio Kane yet. And for the Monsters Cruise, I'm going to start with the other two. Moody Blues and the Cruise to the Edge, the S Cruise. You were able to walk right in. I mean, at your own leisure, because, crowds are a little bit older and different and not like party heavy like the Monsters Cruise. Now, the Monsters Cruise, everybody shows up between 9 and 10, so you have 3,700 people in line waiting to get on the boat. Luckily, I was able to skip that line and go through the artist entrance. But so it just bogged everything down and took forever to get everybody through, and because they're not used to that, they're just used to people showing up at their leisure. Departure time is this time, and let's go. The Monsters Cruise, everybody wants to get on the boat and start partying, so everybody's there between 9 and 10. That's kind of how it works. So the Moody Blues Cruise, obviously the Moody Blues are on there. Roger Daltrey from The Who. The Zombies, Carl Palmer was back on this one. The orchestra featuring members of ELO, Starship, Little River Band, and a bunch of bands that I didn't know who they were, but Heavy Mellow and Cheap Thrill were also on there too. There was like a cover band called Mellow Yellow on there. They were a blast. We ended up doing a cruiser jam for the cruisers. That was kind of cool. Lots of Moody Blues songs. Lots of 60s and very early 70s songs in that jam. But everybody was having fun, man. It was a blast. The first night, Lena and I, we sat down and we had dinner and buffet food. You just get sick of it. The very end of the Monsters Cruise, we found the Artisan Crew restaurant. And it's a restaurant that's open to everybody. They have an Artisan Crew only part. So we went in there and they sat us at a table with a couple people. One of them looked like Dan Fielding with long blonde hair. And the other guy was a British dude. And it's like, all right, cool. You know, just meeting new people, whatever. Norik was the guy's name. And actually, it turns out he's in Burbank. He's got a guitar shop. You have to stop and say hi to him. But then the other guy was Simon and his wife. Simon's a British dude. Just bullshitting, you know, whatever. It turns out Simon's in Roger Daltrey's band, and his last name is Townsend. Yeah. That Townsend. That's his brother. And he plays in Roger's band. And Norik is actually the guitar tech and does some teching for Daltrey's band too. So it was kind of cool. Just, you know, meeting these people and meeting a Townsend. It's pretty badass. But the Moody Blues Cruise, I can't even talk. The Moody Blues Cruise is pretty cool. Very different from the Monsters Cruise. Very different. Very older crowd. Everybody still had a blast. It was a lot of fun. I checked out the Zombies for a little bit. I checked out the Moody Blues for a little bit. Never had a chance to see Daltrey because we were always doing karaoke when Daltrey was playing, which is kind of unfortunate because I really did want to see Daltrey. But yeah, that was fun. It was cool. Then Cruise to the Edge came along and completely different. Now, keep in mind, I'm not making fun of the people that were on there because it was... I kind of joked with them that it was felt like a Dungeons and Dragons convention. It was about 90% guys, and the only girls that were on the boat were with the bands, pretty much. But we still had a blast. And I didn't know a lot of the bands. I know who Yes are. I know who Yes is. I'm not a huge fan of Yes. Didn't actually have a chance to see them. One of the Q&As that I hosted was for a band called Saga. You may remember from the early 80s. They were on MTV. And then there was another band that I did it for called Presto Ballet. Turns out that the guy who put it together and the lead guitar player is Kurt Vanderhoof. Vanderhooven. The guy from Metal Church. The Kurt from Metal Church. And he's in a band that sounds like Rush. I don't think I heard a song on that whole cruise that was under 12 minutes long. All the bands are very good, very talented. Not my thing. I'm not really a prog guy. That would explain the D&D feel, you know. But nothing against any of the talent on the boat because everybody was absolutely amazing. I was just out of my element. I'm like, what? Wow, what is this? I have to go listen to Motorhead now. It just wasn't my thing, but it was fun. We still had an absolute blast, and it was an absolute honor to do it, to do what we did for those 3 cruises. And I think everything works out. We're going to be back on there next year. So fun and great people. We met great people on every cruise. Met a lot of people that we're going to keep in contact with for a very long time that we've already hooked up on Facebook. Just great people on all 3 cruises. It's such an absolute blast. So thank you to everybody who made that happen. Thank you to Brian because it wouldn't have been possible without him because he's got all the music. So fun. So fun. I'm going to get a song on here and Jody Hanks. Minneapolis guy, Star Search survivor. And this comes off of his record. It is called Spirit Outside the Door. The song is called Soul Shine Ecstasy. If you like this, hit me on the Twitter. The first person that tweets at me and says, Izzy, I want that record. I want that Jody Hanks record. That's Izzy _Presley via the Twitter. It's yours. The very first person that does it, I'm not talking retweeting. I'm not talking liking anything. Just the first person that tweets at me and says, Izzy, I want that record. It's all yours. Izzy _Presley. This is Jody Hanks with the name of the song is Soul Shine Ecstasy. Ben Regan's coming up. It is another effing podcast.
If you fight to stay in a spiteful way, money gets you grubby, that's the price you pay. Make it right today, live the life you've made. I don't see any empathy next to me, and it's vexing me. Testing me, got the best of me, really rather impressively. Need to see something fresh to me, and the end of the recipe in ecstasy, especially with sunshine blessing me. With sunshine blessing me. With sunshine blessing me.
All right, it is another effing podcast. That was Jody Hanks with Soul Shine Ecstasy. If you want to win that record, first person that tweets me, Izzy at Izzy underscore Presley on Twitter, saying I want that record. It is all yours, ladies and gentlemen. Well, before I bring Benny in, I just want to say a big thank you to Mike, our sound guy on the Monsters of Rock cruise for the La Luna Lounge and our Rockstar our Gong Show karaoke and the Kiss Jam and all this stuff. He just did a killer job and so easy to work with. Thank you so much, Mike. It was an absolute blast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show. It's been a couple months.
It has.
It's been since January, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, because you were on tour with Richie Ramone.
Yep, from January 28th until we returned back to Los Angeles on March 8th.
March 8th, and I had other guests lined up, and we weren't able to get you back in.
I had to go into a coma for at least a couple weeks, followed by an epic bender, which now is over.
Yeah, because you quit drinking.
Yeah, you know, and I've said this before, but I'm kind of leaning towards more of a long-term deal with this. Just there's a number of projects that I've just been backburnering that I'm not getting done, and I think that putting all the extracurricular pursuits aside for however long it takes is really what I need to do to be able to come to the table with the best possible work product or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Oh, absolutely. It's good. It's good. I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you.
Well, it's like I've heard too many stories, and from my background, I work in the criminal justice system, studying law, and what little bit I've done here in LA and other places I've lived. It's like the basic, like, it's the parable of, like, you drink and then you wreck the car or you get arrested or something, and then you have this moment of clarity. And in this case with me, don't get me wrong, I've had my close calls, but it comes down to I couldn't think. I could not do the simplest things. It wasn't that I woke up with a hangover or couldn't pull myself out of bed. It was that I would get myself out of bed and then just to like put on slippers and start my day was like a huge task. And what should take 15 minutes is taking an hour and a half. So that to me says give your liver and your guts a break.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did the tour go, man?
Well, in my 25 years of playing professionally, and that's a good chunk,
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that I've been able to buy a house or live exclusively off of it, but I feel, especially as I talk with other players, that I've been lucky that I've been pretty much consistently been compensated for playing. I'd never gone out as long as this trip. This was 6 weeks and 33 shows in 40 days, and it was in some. And I, as did you, grew up in the Midwest, northern part of the Midwest, not as far north as Minneapolis, mind you, but I've seen some winter weather, and this was by far the worst winter weather that I've ever been in, and I'd put it close to, not quite, to like the blizzard of 1978, where my family was snowed in for like 3 days.
Oh, I don't miss that shit. Oh my God.
When you're barreling down the interstate in a tour bus, it's exciting. I remember in I want to say it was in upstate New York, I believe so, waking up suddenly and looking out my window and seeing car after car going the other way, running off the road, one after another, and thinking, "Oh shit, we blew it. We're dead," and almost pissing myself. And almost, yeah. I had a couple of those on the road. Waking up, having that dream where you're standing at the toilet, and that cold feeling that you're getting is actually from the window. It's not from the basin.
Right.
And you almost fool yourself into letting loose. Yeah. That happened a couple times. Luckily I've got amazing control, but it was rough, in terms of the weather, the conditions, the very small crew, and so myself and the driver, Scotty, had to do a lot of the lifting, a lot of the heavy deadlift stuff that's over a couple 100 pounds. That was the two of us each night, and everybody pitched in. The shows were really good. Attendance wasn't what we would have liked, but it wasn't terrible either.
Right. Well, there's also the weather factor too.
Well, that's what I was saying. But the thing that got me is that in cities, in rock and roll cities like Detroit and in Philadelphia and in New York, the weather was fucking awful, and people still turned out though.
Yeah, because you got to play New York. Now, you not only got to play New York, but you got to play New York with the Ramone. Yeah,
that was the biggest thing that I was worried about. And as much as I never, and really, I don't even believe in saying worry. I was concerned. Richie coming to New York, as in some circles, critics will throw around, like, Richie wasn't a real Ramone, or he's like a hired guy or whatever, and that's all bullshit. He was as much a part of the band as any other guy that's worn that leather jacket and had that surname attached to him. And more so, and then he contributed songs. But coming back to New York after a 25-year absence, there's a lot of I won't say a lot, but there's a little bit of hostility, and they, like, Johnny and Joey or not Joey, I'm sorry, Johnny and Dee Dee moved out here to Los Angeles and lived the rest of their days out in California. And the last Ramone show, the last one ever, was not in New York City. It was in L.A. at Backstage Live or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, it was what's now the Avalon, and that was it. And there's been or maybe it was Billboard Live. That's what it was. There's been a lot of hostility. You know, why didn't they come home to New York? Blah 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 blah. So us coming to Manhattan, playing the Bowery Electric, what constitutes what would be considered an all L.A. band? Just in that Claire and Alex and myself and Rich all live here, even though Claire's a Londoner by birth. I'm from the Midwest, born in Arizona. We grew up in the Midwest. Alex is from Chicago, and still it would have been really easy for critics to be like, I was just looking around that crowd for, basically somebody to mouth the words "LA fags." I was waiting for it, and I had a head of steam built up and was ready to fucking kill, and I think we all were, and we were able to bring in our Black Star line, a back line, and have those amps, even though the club had said that you couldn't bring your own amplifiers and that they had a house sound system. We kind of basically said, Richie stood up for us and was like, well, as Black Stars go down those stairs or we don't, and in as many words. So that was huge. And then the next day I read the reviews in I don't know if it was in the Village Voice, but it was in some Manhattan rag, and it was saying that it worked and that we knocked it out of the park. And so that was a really big thing. Going back to New Jersey, where Richie's from, and playing for his friends and family, and that area was huge too. The every show I take seriously, but on a personal level, I really wanted to rock out in, like I said, in Philly and in Detroit and Chicago, and these these legendary rock and roll cities, Cleveland, and I think we accomplished that. Some of the better shows were in cities that I would not have guessed, like Syracuse and Rochester, Hamilton, Ontario, fucking Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was cold.
Yeah.
It was really cold. Colder than I was. I don't know if I've ever been in quite that cold weather, honestly. I mean, I had 3 or 4 layers on and my face covered, goggles on, and I was like, fuck, it is cold. And of course there's a dude from the club that's there in jeans and a t-shirt outside helping us.
Of course.
Like it wasn't nothing.
Yeah. I used to be that guy. Well, it was never a t-shirt, it was always jorts. I wore shorts all winter long for years, and then I finally wised up and said, shit's fucking cold, I'm putting on pants. But
I was gonna say, I was surprised when you first moved here and you were like, it is cold, and I'm like, this is not cold.
Oh yeah. if it's below 70, I'm cold.
Well, that's good. And then I commend you on your move. It's probably the best thing you could have done.
I agree. No, see, you guys, you started out in Vegas. That was the first show.
That's right.
And it just kind of built momentum for you.
Yeah, the first 3 were kind of, I won't say they were rough, but we were still kind of getting our sea legs, as it were. We almost went to prison in Texas at a routine narcotics checkpoint. There's some smoking going on, and I was asleep, oddly enough. And they pulled us out of the van and brought dogs in and all this stuff. And fortunately, we were able to avoid getting popped. And they basically, I think it helped that our tour manager told the cops who we were, as one of the guys was a Ramones fan. And then also, they said, like, we're looking for big stuff, we're not looking for little stuff. And
right.
I said absolutely nothing. And so that was, that put some extra tension in the trip. I really, for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but maybe I don't know. No, I would say it wasn't until the Florida shows. For me, I mean, we were good in Louisiana, but the weather was bad and the turnouts were kind of sparse. those were good shows, but like it wasn't until Pensacola and Jacksonville where the turnouts started really coming through and the clubs were a lot nicer, and then we just kind of hit into our stride. I'd say about 3 or 4 shows into the tour, we started really just knocking them dead, and then and that lasted throughout the trip, but it reached its peak in Denver at Herman's Hideaway, as I ended up hurting my wrist that night, just in a freak accident, and so that kind of put me off to where I had to hold back on some of the last shows of the trip, with regards to drumming. But we made it, and it seems like everybody's still friends. They're,
That's a bonus.
6 weeks is a long time to be on the road with anybody. And I'm also, in terms of, chronological age, I'm still, I guess, by default, the baby of the band.
Right.
And everybody is at least a few years older than me, I would imagine. Yeah, I imagine so.
Well, I just want to put it in perspective for people that it's like, when they're out on tour, it's not like they all have their own bus and they only see each other. They're in the same confines for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And you wonder...
Doubling and tripling up in the hotel rooms.
Right, exactly. And you wonder why there's always fighting in bands and stuff like that. That's why. It's because you can't get away from each other. So you guys come out of it, everybody's friends. That's a good thing. That's a good sign. And
more so, I'd say that even with regards to we brought in a new guitar player, Alex Kane, who was in Life, Sex, and Death and Anti-Product,
and some fucking shit ass. Sorry,
he played in Holland, which is a kind of shredder metal band from Chicago. Enough's Enough. He's all around player. He's produced Rick Nielsen, Slash, Yaka. And I feel like we got to be pretty good friends on this trip. And actually, he was at times an island of reality and a sea of bullshit. So that was kind of nice. And just in comparison to our previous lead guitar player, I was cordial with, but I wouldn't say we were friends by any stretch of the imagination. Not hardly.
And coming up, you guys getting out again?
We are putting together European and South American dates that it's looking like it's going to be in the summer, probably late summer. I wouldn't be surprised if it's early fall. If anything comes up sooner, I'd be really surprised. And this kind of par for the course. Anytime I'm told the original prospective dates, it's usually a good idea to add 2 or 3 months to it. Because nothing seems, in this internet age, it still seems like nothing comes together quickly. I think everybody just relies on the technology to do the legwork. But we are playing our only Los Angeles area show is in 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago yesterday. And that is at the Observatory in Santa Ana in Orange County. And that is with the Dickies, the Queers, and the Angry Samoans. And that's a pretty rock solid bill. So we've had a couple rehearsals previous as we speak. We've had 2 since we got back, and they've both been really good. For me, I just needed to sleep once I got home, and then after my bender of epic proportions, what else is there to do except practice and get ready to do it again?
It's amazing how good that sleep is.
I'm a big fan.
I mean, even just after a little bit over 2 weeks on that boat, coming home and sleeping in your own bed is
well, on this trip, a lot of nights I didn't have there were nights where I didn't have a bed because we were splitting doubles up, and,
right.
And some of them there'd be a couch, or I remember I can't remember what part of New York it was in. I want to say in Syracuse, actually, where the rooms had a window seat that had a pad in it, and the window seat was about 8 feet long. So I just jumped up in the windowsill, and the heater is right below me. So it was like the best sort of like bunk bed type thing. I mean, I slept like a fucking kitten. It was amazing. But it wasn't always like that. and there were a few nights too where just the amount of sleep that we were able to get, I was lucky to be able to, in the dark, unroll my sleeping bag on this, cold concrete floor with like a thin tissue layer of carpet and just try and get some shut eye. But what I did was, when at all possible, I would, get my stuff staged to where I could get it out the door pretty quickly and be all cleaned up, and then be the first one out, first one in the van, and then I would nest in the back of the van and sleep for the whole trip. And that's the way to do it, really. I'd wake up and like, oh, we're there. You missed the thunderous hailstorm and chasm opening up in the earth. I'm like, oh yeah, I was dreaming of being on a beach with naked women.
I was on a beach with half naked women.
I bet.
Especially in the Monsters Cruise.
Wow. That's pretty badass.
Then we I can't remember the name of the island that we stopped at, but on the island, Great White played acoustic and the London Choir Boys played acoustic. It was just a huge party out there on the island. It's a fucking blast. Joel Hoekstra, he plays a Night Ranger and Trans-Siberian Orchestra, so he's got some chops. And he's the guy one of the guitar guys in the Broadway production of Rock of Ages. He didn't join us until the island, and he made his grand entrance by jumping out of a helicopter into the water.
Nice.
Yeah, in a Michael Jordan jersey. And there's
nice.
Like 4 girls in black bikinis that met him and walked him up. It was
bikini bottoms though. Or
full
tops
bikinis.
Too. Wow.
I don't understand this. We're in international waters, and there was nobody just hanging out topless.
Right.
You figure, in the Bahamas and Grand Turk Island and Cozumel, and you think boobs would be accepted.
I would think so.
And it just didn't happen. I was kind of bummed a little bit.
You see the goddamn Americans get their fucking Bible Belt bullshit in there. All of a sudden, everybody's all ashamed of their bodies.
Girls, please do not be ashamed of your boobies.
No.
Please do not. Just let them go.
And if you have any questions about it, you need to let people check them out. And
I agree.
So you need get a little feedback and get sort of a flow sheet going as to the features and benefits and pros and cons of your rack, and you'll see that more often than not, just showing them is the best thing you could possibly do.
I absolutely agree.
In a myriad of levels.
I absolutely agree. So now, when I was gone, it finally happened. Kiss was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, you've read a little bit.
I did.
Your thoughts?
Oh, Kiss. I don't know what to say about Kiss, because every time I say something positive about them, then they do something that constitutes ultimate douchebaggery.
Right.
And every time I say something really crappy about them, then it's like, oh, and Paul Stanley saved a blind deaf mute infant, and and then I'm like, oh, I guess I'm a jerk.
Well, I heard some interviews with Ace afterwards.
Speaking of jerks.
Yeah, but he still rules.
He does rule.
He was talking about, it's like, we got back together and everything was great when we were together. That's one thing that I can see about those guys. When they're apart, they just bicker, but once they get together, it's like brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Granted, he did take a pot shot at Paul's voice a little bit during the interview, because they were asking about his new record that comes out in June, and he said that people that that heard the raw track said, I sound like my '78 record. It's like, well, my voice hasn't changed, unlike other people in the band. Yes, Paul, that was a shot at you.
Yeah, maybe so.
So, and then Paul came out. This is after the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which was on the 10th, so it'll be last Thursday.
Wow.
And tweeted, "Our treatment at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame confirmed my worst suspicions. Winner and the rest are spineless weasels." Of course, meaning Jan Winter, the head honcho for Rolling Stone magazine. He went on to say that people behind the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame gave the members of Kiss no passes or schedule. for the evening, but didn't elaborate on exactly what he was referring to. He concluded, "We were great, and winner remains a small man." Does that sound bitter?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, my whole thing, and this, I've come to this conclusion after revisiting the Penelope Spheris Decline of Western Civilization Part 2 that recently showed at LACMA.
I was gone. I wanted to
The
see
new
that.
35 millimeter
bad.
print. It really, seeing it on the big screen on a fresh print, the fresh print of Bel Air, it was really good. I'd only seen, I guess, bootlegged copies of it because it's never been put on DVD, never, like not officially. And it was really good. The Q&A after was really good. But getting back to Kiss, their segment, I mean, you know, you go to, and first of all, the period of time for Kiss when that was shot was not a good time for them. That was when they were, I think it's pretty close to like Hot in the Shade, maybe.
It was around 87, so it was it 80? Actually, it was earlier than that.
Earlier.
It was
around
around
Asylum.
Yeah, it was around the Asylum era. Yeah.
Which, that was not exactly their highest point, right? You know?
No, I think they're not quite like around the Elder and Creatures.
I think they were selling more records then than they were with Asylum, though. I mean, but
anyway,
but you know what I mean. They were, you know, the makeup was off. Right. They were playing smaller and smaller venues, lineup changes and all this. And, you know, you got Gene with the terrible rug on and trashy lingerie with girls. I mean, him and Paul, there's like 2 or 3 penthouse model type girls that, you know, it's just obvious that they're there as eye candy, and you know, it's not like in the other segments where the bands are hanging out with their girlfriends or like chicks at the show. These are like for hire models, and like, you know, laying there, and they're in lingerie. The girls, mind you, probably Kiss too, and just every line was just so contrived, and I just could envision like, hold on, let's try that again. You know, like, and then I made it. I'm the star I want to be. Hold on, let's try that again. You know, it seemed very, very contrived, and it really just, they came off like a really cheesy PSA, which I don't know if that was good for them or not. You know, when I think about, after watching that movie, what I got out of it, I was just happy to see Lemmy, Alice Cooper, and at the end, at least I got some Megadeth, you know, like thrown in at the end, and I'm like, you know, you can watch that movie and look at the bands that are featured and go, you're not gonna make it, you're not gonna make it,
right?
You're not gonna make it. Maybe.
But it's amazing watching the, like, when they have interviews with just people who weren't like stars, like just talking about the music and all, but they're in bands and say, yeah, we're gonna make it, we're gonna be huge. But then you see, like, there's girls from Vixen in there, and there's like other people that actually did go on to do something.
Anne Boleyn from Bitch, and from was it Hellion? I think it's
something like that.
She's still around.
My favorite part of that whole movie, though, is Lemmy up on that fucking mountain, and there's like different parts of the interview, so it'll be like light out, then dark out, then light out. So it looks like he's been up there for like 5 days.
He's drinking a Pepsi.
Yeah. It's like fucking great.
Probably full of Jack Daniels.
Oh, it's funny. Speaking of that movie, on the first cruise, the first Monster Rock cruise 2 years ago, Odin was on the boat.
They're still around.
They're still around.
Wow.
It was hilarious.
See, I wondered, because that singer in that part is like, oh, I'll kill myself if we don't make it. And like, I couldn't help wondering when I was walking out of the museum, I'm like, I wonder if that guy ever did off himself.
No. He might have since.
Does he still wear assless chaps?
Oh, God, I don't know. I only saw him during the meet and greet, so I...
Because he did in that movie, and it was bad news. I mean,
Odin!
Yeah.
Odin!
It's all about the dude from Gazzari, isn't it?
Oh, I know. Fucking that old guy. That was one of the classics that's gone, man. A lot of them are.
You know, a lot of the shit that I moved here to experience was gone within the first year, if not the year before I got into town. You know, when I was 18, when I turned 19, and the decision was made by my brother and the guys I was playing with in Hippies and Flames, a punk band, like, we need to get the fuck out of here. as a quarter of St. Louis was going underwater again because the city floods a lot.
Yeah, it's like the Grand Forks, North Dakota. It floods every year, but yet people stay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, and a lot of it's because the Army Corps of Engineers and the city planners have all been, pocketing all this money that's been apportioned for it, and they don't do any of the work. And then something breaks, and they're like, "Oh, get us an emergency fund," But yeah, the decision was made that we would go to Seattle, and I remember thinking that we were really making a bad decision. In terms of a punk band, Seattle was probably a better choice for us to go in and cut our teeth in playing in a new city, and they had a good underground. But being from a shredder school of playing early on and loving metal and being a Rat fan and all that stuff, I wanted to move to LA at 19, and I wonder if things would have turned out differently had I done that. But
I'm in the same boat. It's like when I was like a senior in high school, I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm gonna move to LA. This is gonna be awesome." And of course, I waited 20 plus years to do it, but I did it.
Yeah, well,
I made it.
Had 10 in Seattle, and then I've got 10 down here. So I guess there's your 20 years post high school. Yeah, I don't know. My thing was that there was a group of kids that they were older than me, quite a bit older than me. Rich kids from my high school, and they had moved. A couple of them had moved out to LA, and one of them gone to film school, and then they'd gotten into all kinds of shit, got all messed up on coke, and so rather than having the wisdom of going, well, those guys are fucking idiots, and they want something for nothing and don't want to slug it out and work for it. I found that a lot of people in the Midwest, even in Seattle too, that everything they told me about Los Angeles and about California was absolutely wrong, unequivocally wrong. And it makes me wonder if Angelinos that have their heads on straight here actually, I wonder if they dispense false information to keep people from moving here.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I wouldn't either.
Well, everybody talks about how expensive everything is, but it's really not.
No.
It's just, we're in a lucky situation with rent, so we don't, it's not that big of a deal. But I mean, gas is over $4 now. That was kind of a shock when I came back.
I haven't had this lower rent since 1992.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever been this low.
Oh, I know. I'm paying less now than I was back in St. Cloud. It's kind of weird. When I was gone,
suck on it.
When I was gone, I don't know if you saw this story or not, and I wanted to get into this. I wanted to wait till you got in here to get into it, but there was this lady and her mom in I can't remember what town it was, but her son, which was like 8 or 10 or something like that, posted something on his Facebook page about how he was all OG and he was all gangster and all this stuff, and she decided to make a video of herself and her mother, which would be the grandmother, disciplining the child, and posted it on Facebook and humiliating him. And it started out basically like, okay, now the guy that was running the camera was running from the cops too. He was wanted, the boyfriend or whatever. So they humiliate him, but they were disciplining, yelling at him, like, you think you're so tough, you think you're a gangster, you think you're a gangster, you want to be a gangster. Then they unleashed grandma on him with a belt. Now, I want to get your take on this because...
I didn't see it.
I think she whipped him like 60 times, which I think is a little over the top. I think like 8 or 10 lashes. Pants were on. It was on the butt.
That's just foreplay.
Exactly. To me, that's discipline. Growing up and basically growing up on a farm. If you did something, grandma got you, and you didn't do it again. I guess. I don't know. But I think this was a bit much. Oh, yeah, they got arrested, by the way. Because mom goes, go ahead, call child services. I'm going to make an example of this kid.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Thoughts?
Wow. Well, I have not seen said video, so I cannot revel in the horror and humanity of it, but it sounds god awful. Why didn't the grandmother come out there and start kicking the mom's ass for shitting out a brat?
That she had. Well, grandmother had daughter at 14, I think. And
grandmother should start kicking her own ass.
And mother had son at 18.
Well,
yeah, so
there's an old saying that there's two things in the air that can get a young lady in trouble. It's her legs, and yeah, I don't know, man. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That's just ugh.
Well, and of course, this was on I saw this on HLN, which is Nancy Grace is on there, and that Jane Valdez bitch, and basically, if a little white girl goes missing, it's the end of the world, and that's all they talk about for 3 weeks.
Right.
But, which we also like to call the Hysteric Ladies Network. And I don't know. I just think I think it goes down to disciplining your child and how you're not able to do it anymore. Because if you spank a kid, all of a sudden it's child abuse. Which I disagree with. I mean, there's a point. I mean, if you're cold cocking your kid, the fist to the chops.
If you're leaving marks and stuff, I don't know. It's a tough one, and I've gone round and round with this because my mom was heavy-handed with me, and with regards to spankings and slapping me and shit. But at the same time, I'd like to say when it comes down to like manners, etiquette. Don't get me wrong. I have a smart mouth and a silver tongue, but like I know when to turn it on, and I've got a pretty good filter. And that said, she didn't do that to my little brother, and we're a little bit different like that. He doesn't have that filter. He's more apt to say something. I mean, I don't know. And then that's my perception, and as we get older, that changes a little bit. But I wonder also, I've been a bit more independent and, quicker to break away and kind of, seek my own fortune rather than staying close to home or staying in relationships or in social circles that kind of like nail you down into a routine. And I wonder if some of that is from the independence I don't know if it's necessarily from the discipline, but my mother always had a very, she always just let me do my own thing, but then she would come down on me, if I needed to be knocked down a peg. But I'm, a lot more independent, I think, or at least maybe at one point was, than the rest of my family. So I don't know. It's a slippery slope.
Well, I just think it's funny though that, when they're talking about this on that show, the panel is two extremely attractive women that I think are either lawyers or whatever.
I want them to beat me.
Right. And, this is an outrage. This is, child abuse. Well, I think 60 whips, I think, is child abuse. But, of course, they're going to say that because I guarantee that they grew up in middle to upper middle class families, and they were on the timeout system, or they were coddled. They were never disciplined like rural kids are.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my take on it. I think you should be able to discipline your child. I think it needs it. I think the world needs it because everybody's so coddled. Timeouts don't work.
No.
I'm sorry.
Well, I hate to say it, but I think that one thing that is sorely missing, that I know that it was only when there was too much free time where I would get wound up and there would be discipline issues. But my mom and my grandparents, and I guess my dad to a greater or lesser degree, is they would just pile on so much like physical labor for me to do at an early age. And so much work. I mean, this is on a farm. This isn't like housework.
Right.
This is like working, with 3.5 acres of having to mow a 3.5 acre lawn and then go into the fields and pick up after the horses, and we'd bale hay, and we'd work in the garden. There was like a pea patch for the houses that were along this state road that was in the back on their land, and I would help with the pea patch, and I would help with, it was just always a million things, spreading fresh gravel out in the driveway of the business, and weeding around the property, and setting traps in the warehouse to keep the rats out of the textiles. And I mean, it was like from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. any day that I was there. It was pretty much a given. Now my grandparents, of course, on my father's side were, they weren't slave drivers. So at about like noon till about 2 or 3, I could go up and have a lunch and take a nap. But I would have to, I'd go back down there and help them close. And I was a very, very young kid. This is like 8 or 9 years old,
right? If
not younger. And driving a tractor and driving a stick shift, and I wasn't even 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And because it needed another hand. And that kept me. The funny thing is, at my grandparents, my father's folks, that was what the days were like, more often than not. And I rarely had any discipline issues. Now, when I would be at my mom's folks and kind of just like cooped up in their house, not a lot to do, small town, more residential, not as rural, and that's where the problems would be, because there's just so much, you can't, when you take a child and especially a creative and hyperactive child, and tell them to sit down and shut up, there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it too. You got to keep a child's mind active, either creatively or give them some menial tasks to keep them busy and wear them out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely do. So let's see, what are we doing?
Of course, I fucking hated it at the time, having to work all the time.
Of course you did, but I suppose looking back now, you realize it was good.
I do appreciate it, but then again, I'm not exactly real crazy about punching a clock anytime soon either.
Yeah, dude, I'm the exact same way. All right, man, we're pushing over 1:10 here. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Unless you got anything else you really want to chat about.
No, that went really fast.
It really did.
That was crazy. That's good. Hopefully I wasn't rambling too much.
No. We love it when you ramble.
You were about the only one.
It makes for good radio, what can I say?
That's good.
All right, man. Yeah, we'll have you back soon.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do an A/B with some of the earlier ones when I was drunk off my ass.
Yes. Revisit some of those topics or something. I don't know.
Oh, God.
All right,
I
folks.
just wonder if you can hear the slur.
No.
That's good.
No. Listening back, I listened to them back and just...
I probably sound more retarded now.
Because your brain's actually
Brain
working.
damaged.
Oh, that's hilarious. All right, man. That's been Benny Reagan. He, Richie Ramone Band, and my Ramone mate.
That's right.
He'll be back soon. Sorry.
Our Barrio Shangri-La.
Yeah. I was going to get an interview with Todd LaTorre from Queensryche while on Cruise at the Edge, but I just ran out of time. Just the day I was going to do it, they ended up having a Q&A and a show, and but we're going to get that done via Skype, so we'll get that done soon. So he's going to come on the show, and I got a lot of cool stuff coming up on the show.
Operation Mind Skype.
Operation Mind Skype. That was good.
The queen of the Skype.
That was good. Let's see Hairball. Let's see where Hairball will be. I've been so out of touch. I don't even know where the hell they're playing. Hairballonline.com. You can check it for tickets. I'm pulling it up right here to see what shows are coming up. Hairball. Friday, they are in Bemidji, Minnesota at the Sanford Center. Saturday, the 19th at GB Layton's Pickle Park, which I like to call Pickle Fuckers. That's in Fridley, Minnesota. Let's see. What else is that coming up here, too? Let's see. Lacrosse Center, April 24th. It's always a fun venue. Turp Ballroom in Austin, April 25th. Alexandria, Runestone Community Center, 26th. And Omaha, Nebraska, May 2nd. So
Look
that's
at
what's coming up
that.
for Hairball. You want hairballonline.com. Check out, let's see, 3 Sides of the Coin podcast. They had Bryn from the Odd Fathers and Flip. I'll get that posted on my Izzy Presley Productions Facebook page.
Amazeballs page.
I think Amazeballs. Why? You had to say that word.
Sorry.
It's all right. I think I'm too sober too. So I'm
Amazeballs.
Amazeballs. They had it's a very fun conversation talking about Bill a Coin, because Bill managed Flip and worked with Bryn for a very long time. And I'm also going to do their other podcast, which is called Dropping the Needle. That one should be a lot of fun. So I'll let you guys know when that's going to happen. Make sure you check out rockstarleatherworks.com. And don't forget, if you do want to contribute to the show, izzy.presley@gmail.com is the PayPal. That's izzy.presley@gmail.com. It may be free to do this, but it's really not, because I have programs to pay for. I have microphones. I have all this stuff that I paid for that I got to get my money back. Heroin. No. I'm actually not drinking either. I got this bottle of Mexican Coca-Cola that I got with my
you're
tacos.
gonna be up for a while.
Yeah, I know, but it's delicious.
It's so good. I know.
All right, folks, we'll see you next week. Not sure who the guest is going to be, but I'm sure I will have one. If not, Benny will be here.
Yeah, I'll be the interim guest.
Yeah.
We can't get anybody good. Get the fake Ramone. Put the fake Ramone on.
You're always good, man. Don't ever say that. So we will see you next week. It has been another effing podcast. And IzzyPresleyProductions.com. Email me, Izzy@IzzyPresleyProductions.com. The Twitter is @Izzy_Presley. Facebook, of course, another effing podcast. Tweet. And Izzy Presley Productions. We will see you next week. Tweet. I do love you all.